Amen.
And
Okay, so Esau and Jacob, part 2. All right, now to start, all right, this is the deception. Okay, to start, we're going to go back to the dream that that Rebecca had, and we're going to keep that in mind as we read this story. And the Lord said to her, 2 peoples are in your womb, and 2 nations shall be separated from your body. And the one nation shall be stronger than the other nation, and the elder shall serve the younger. So as we read this story, keep that in mind. So, and this is chapter 27. So let's see. Albert, would you like to go ahead and read that?
Sure. Genesis chapter 27, verses 1 through 10. And it came to pass when Isaac was old and his eyes were dim, so that he could not see, he called Esau his eldest son and said to him, My son. And he said to him, Behold, here I am. And Isaac said to him, Behold, now I am old, and I do not know the day of my death. Now therefore take your weapons, your sword and your bow, and go out into the field and hunt game, and make me stewed meat, such as I like, and bring it to me, that I may eat, that my soul may bless you before I die. And Rebekah heard when Isaac spoke to Esau his son. So Esau went to the field to hunt game and to bring it. Then Rebekah said to Jacob her son, Behold, I heard your father say to Esau your brother, Bring me game and make me stewed meat, that I may eat and bless you in the presence of the Lord before I die. Now therefore, my son, listen to me according to that which I command you. Go now to the flock and bring me from there 2 kids of the goat. I guess there's 2 kinds of the goats. And I will make from them stew for your father, such as he likes. And you shall bring it to your father, that he may eat, and that he may bless you in the presence of the Lord before his death.
Okay, and there starts the deception. Notice that it's Rebecca that's promoting this deception. Okay. Okay. Now, I'll read this one and we'll alternate, Albert, okay?
Okay.
And Jacob said to Rebekah, his mother, Behold, Esau, my brother, is
no,
a
I was
hairy man.
just attending online my Aramaic Bible.
There we go. Esau, my brother, is a hairy man, and I am a smooth man. Perhaps my father will feel me, and I shall seem to him as a mocker, and I shall bring a curse upon myself and not a blessing. And his mother said to him, Let your curses be upon me, my son. Only listen to me and go and fetch them to me. So Jacob does not really want to do this deception, but his mama is telling him to do it. So he went and picked them up and brought them to his mother, and his mother made a stew, such as his father liked. And Rebekah took the best clothes of her elder son Esau, which were with her in the house, and put them upon Jacob, her younger son. And she put the skins of the kids of the goats upon his hands and upon the back of his neck. And she gave the stew and the bread, which she had prepared, into the hand of her son Jacob. Okay, now. Go ahead, Albert, if you would.
Okay. And he brought them into his father and said, My father? And he said, Here am I. Then he said, Who are you, my son? And Jacob said to his father, I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done as you told me. Now arise and sit up and eat of my game, that your soul may bless me. And Isaac said to his son, How is it that you have found it so quickly, my son? And he said, Because the Lord your God brought it my way. Then Isaac said to Jacob his son, Come near me, that I may feel you, my son, to know whether you are my son Esau or not. And Jacob drew near to Isaac his father, and he felt him, and said, The voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are Esau's. But he did not recognize him because his hands were hairy, like his brother Esau's hands. So he blessed him, and he said, Are you my very son Esau? And Jacob said, I am.
Ah, terrible, right?
Yeah.
Terrible.
Deception.
Okay. And he said, Bring the stew near to me, and I will eat of my son's game, that my soul may bless you. And he brought it near to him, and he did eat, and he brought him wine, and he drank. And his father Isaac said to him, Come near me now, kiss me, my son. So he drew near and kissed him. And he came near and kissed him, and he smelled the smell of his garment and blessed him and said, See, the smell of my son is like the smell of a field which the Lord has blessed. Therefore, may God give you of the dew of heaven and the richness of the earth and the abundance of wheat and wine. Let people serve you and nations bow down to you. Be a prince over your brethren, and let your mother's sons bow down to you. Cursed be they who curse you, and blessed be they who bless you. Um, this is the blessing, and this is what remember Abraham. God chose Abraham and said his descendants will carry on God's way, God's work. Okay, Isaac got the same message. Okay, that his descendants would carry on also. And so this is the blessing, different from the birthright. Okay, the birthright was a worldly thing. Okay, that said, okay, the tradition is the eldest son will receive the total inheritance of his father, maybe not total inheritance, but would take the place of the father, be in control of the family, all of his affairs. That was the tradition, the major role. And just to note, I have the smell of my son is like, I have that highlighted. And remember, Rebecca put Esau's, it's kind of like his Sunday clothes, okay, on Jacob. And now it says here, and he smelled the smell of his garment, but then it talks about the smell of my son, and we're going to get again into that later. Okay, so Jacob essentially has got the blessing, and in lieu of Esau, and seemingly deceived his father. Okay. Okay, go ahead, Albert.
And it came to pass when Isaac had finished blessing Jacob, and Jacob had gone out from the presence of Isaac his father, behold, Esau his brother came in from his hunting. And he also made stew and brought it to his father, and said to his father, Let my father arise and eat of his son's game, that your soul may bless me. And Isaac his father said to him, Who are you? And he said, I am your son, your firstborn, Esau. And Isaac was greatly alarmed and said, who was it then that hunted game and brought it to me? I have eaten of everything before you came, and I have blessed him, yea, and he shall be blessed. And when Esau heard the words of his father, he cried out bitterly and said to his father, bless me, even me also, O my father. But his father said, your brother came with deceit and has already received your blessing.
Okay, once the blessing is done, it cannot be taken back. That's the story here. Okay. And Esau said, is he not rightly named Jacob? For he has acted treacherously toward me twice. He took away my birthright, and behold, now he has taken away my blessing. And Esau said to his father, have you not reserved the blessing for me? And Isaac answered and said to Esau, behold, I have made him a prince over you. Remember, the younger son is over the older son, totally a break in tradition. And all his brethren have I given to him for servants, and with wheat and wine have I sustained him. And what shall I do now for you, my son? And Esau said to his father, have you only one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. And Isaac his father answered and said to him, behold, your dwelling shall be in the fertile places of the earth, and the dew of heaven shall fall upon you from above. And by your sword you shall live, and you shall serve your brother. But if you should repent, his yoke shall pass away from off your neck. Now, so Esau did get a blessing, okay, and he was to go and live in and the land where he lived is called Edom, below Israel. All right, so both of them have Jacob got the blessing because that's what he was um, supposed to do. That's what God had warranted, and Esau. Now, all right. So let's go back here. Now, let's go back to the dream, because this story, all right, the dream is fulfilled as Rebecca heard it. Okay. Um, there are two nations. Remember, it says, "And two nations shall be separated from your body." Okay. Esau went to live in Edom, what became Edom, and of course Jacob is renamed Israel, and Israel is his nation, and that is the stronger nation. So, so that part of the dream is good. All right, and then the elder shall serve the younger. All right, so Jacob received the blessing, okay, and controlled over the family, and Esau was to serve his younger brother. Now, what we want to talk about is how did they get here? Now, this was what God communicated to Rebecca, and just as this is okay. This is the first time here in Genesis. I think it's the only time when, remember, God communed with Abraham, okay, and Isaac just kind of plays a role, like an interim role, because Isaac got the one message from God about how his descendants would take up the covenant and walk in God's ways. And that's all he got. But Rebecca, his wife, God talked to her, okay? And So let's look at, um, let me just go to Rebecca. Okay, so he spoke to Rebecca. All right, now when we're talking about the deception, remember it was Rebecca's idea, and Jacob said, I don't know, mother, but they did it, and so we have a problem uh, when we're looking at the Bible. We have a problem with Jacob. Jacob gets a bad rap the whole way around from our points of view. Okay. Um, and but was this not okay? This, even though it's a deception, and we think, oh well, that the deception is wrong and whatnot, but was it not part of God's plan? Because how was all right? It turned out that Esau was not. Esau essentially was not capable to lead the descendants in the way of God. Remember, Esau was a hunter, and he hunted, and his life was with the sword, which is what Isaac just gave him, that kind of blessing. But Esau was not, and he was the eldest, and according to worldly ways, the tradition, he should have gotten the blessing, but he wasn't qualified, so to speak. He was not, and that is not what God had preordained. So, so he went to Rebecca, and I don't know if any of you know any Jewish mothers, but Rebecca played the role of the Jewish mother just perfectly. Okay, she took charge. Isaac, Isaac was not. Um, I don't. Okay, I'm just gonna say Isaac. I don't want to use the word weak, but he was not. Um, as a matter of fact, all these men. Remember, okay, remember Abraham. Um, Abraham had two sons too. All right, he had Ishmael. Ishmael was the oldest. Isaac was the youngest. All right, but in Abraham's case, Ishmael did not turn out. He was not to be the one to lead to fulfill the covenant and lead the descendants in God's ways. And that troubled Abraham, just like it troubled Isaac, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And so, but here, Rebecca, the wife and the Jewish mother, God chose her to help make this happen. Now, it's kind of like when she heard Isaac say to Esau, go hunting and get me the stew. Well, she had within her the dream that God had said, the elder will serve the younger. And she knew that Jacob was destined to do that. And that's what she initiated. Okay. And she made it happen. And so she knew what the right thing was, the right son that should have gotten the blessing. And so she devised the deception and talked Jacob into it. Okay. Now, let me just go back here. So, was it a deception an acceptable means to accomplish God's purpose? Now, you can read commentaries after commentaries, and it's morally okay. It was the deception was wrong, but it was God's well, Jacob's predestination by God that he was to be chosen. So the mystery of all this is that of God's action, who uses for his ends even human faults, yet remains completely sovereign in his choice. he had preferred Jacob over Esau even before their birth. Okay, now the question, all right, the other question that comes up is, did Isaac know? Okay, now when you read the story, it sounds like, oh, he was just really received. He was blind, and he, you know, but okay, Isaac, uh, he may have been blind and whatnot, but remember, I mean, um, a father doesn't, just because he's blind and whatnot, a father knows his sons and he knows his children. And so uh, Isaac struggled like Abraham did over Ishmael because Esau was the oldest. And the right thing for Isaac to do was to give the blessing to Esau. Yet within Isaac, he knew he knew that Jacob, he knew that Esau was not, he just was not fit for the job spiritually. Okay. And so he struggled with this. And how was he going to tell Esau the blessing wasn't going to be his? I mean, that it's just a major thing for him. So think about this. Um, Rebecca and Jacob and the deception, it really, I don't like to use the terminology, but it is, it got Isaac off the hook because he didn't have to tell Isaac directly, well, son, I can't give you the blessing because, and so this is one theory, and it's just God working among people. Um, so, okay, now, how was he going to tell Esau the blessing wasn't going to be his? And it was handed to him with the deceit. So, did he know? Um, I think, of course, he knew uh, because he knew. Now, God didn't talk to Isaac like he did Rebecca, but Isaac knew that his descendants were to lead spiritually and whatnot. He knew that in his heart, and he also knew that Esau just couldn't do it. So these are answered differently everywhere, but um, was he deceived? I don't think so. Um, I think he knew what was going on, and that was God's way. So I have a Torah commentary that I use because this is the Old Testament, and I thought that I would just uh, this was a little prose piece, and I thought that we could end with this. Okay, and it's called "He Knew." Think you he was so easily misled that blindness made confusion possible between the son he thought he loved and him whom he must bless? He blessed because he must, because God wrought in him. At such a time, could our cheap trickery prevail? He knew this was the blessing of the chosen son. Crossed, purposed, and reversing, it might seem, the destiny of generations. Strange and repetitious are God's ways with man. And I think sometimes we say God works in mysterious ways. And so uh, I was trying to come up with examples because this happens to us all the time. but so I'm going to just take it back where we started. And the theme of the book of Genesis is God's role in human affairs. And I think that God plays a role in all of our uh, affairs if we allow it. And in that case, we had tradition. We had the tradition that the eldest son would get the blessing, that the inheritance would be in control of the family and whatnot. Um, and so it was, it would have been, and I think in our world today, our worldly traditions many times supersede what perhaps God really wanted, God's ways. And so I'd like to go that route because Dr. Lomsa, Dr. George Lomsa, who translated the Bible, he says every episode in the Bible has a lesson for humankind. And so I think that with this approach, the spiritual approach, in the Old Testament, I think that's very meaningful, because um, he God plays a role in our lives. We just many times don't realize it. So, and once again, I go back to the gospel, and and when Jesus said, "The kingdom of heaven is here now; it's available to all of you," and that's where you're open to that awareness that God is everywhere. Um, and if you are aware and open, then God plays a big role in your life. Okay. All right. I'll just quickly go through just, we are a 501c3 organization now. All right. These are the commentaries that we use. And now I'm